Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily pep talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. Our producer for today's show is Thomas Becker, and our guest is George Kavassilas. And I'll tell you a little bit about George. He's an author, mentor, and public speaker. He's had a lifetime of strange and wonderful experiences beyond the ordinary, encountering both benevolent and malevolent, interdimensional and extraterrestrial beings. As a consequence, he went through a process of reconciling knowledge and wisdom gained from these experiences and came to realize the natural responsibility to share what he has learned with our global community. As a result, George now embodies a limitless passion in answering life's primordial questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? And what are we doing here? All that George shares stems from direct experience. Some find his work challenging, yet for others it's incredibly liberating. The knowledge and wisdom George shares, along with his values and philosophy, have helped thousands of people over the world to feel, to be, and to live in a more peaceful, centered, and empowered state in the most natural way. George knows his life path includes focus to expose all levels of deception, no matter how far they go. He carries a deeply seated responsibility to help liberate our humanity from all forms of imposing doctrine and dogma without exception. His website is I Am Infinite Love, IamInfinite.love, which is an expression of George's work that provides people with a supportive learning environment. As George says, it's really a remembering process to revitalize and resurrect the sovereign and infinite being you truly are. On the path of truth seeker, false beliefs are torn down, but in their stead, the naked truth rises in its simple beauty. Okay, Dr. Listen, sound check, are you there? Hello? Am I talking to myself?
No,
Okay.
what does yourself say when you talk to it?
Oh, it just rambled on. Okay, so you're there.
Yeah, so George, so George is one of the ambassadors of higher wisdom that we've been interviewing, and it's like when you have these kind of deep experiences, you may, however you relate it, good stuff is coming out of it, and George has got a lot of it. And so I want to really hear about your journeys, especially on spaceships, and what the extraterrestrials have showed us that can help us enjoy our lives more.
Well, also, I want to learn more about the elements of imposition. Imposition, yes, what you're saying. And I read that briefly, and I need you to explain that to me. But it sounds incredible, and I know it's part of your work that you've done, but I'm going to say hello. George, welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Oh, we love having you. I looked online when last time we had you. It was 2016. Oh my God, time flies. But so you've written. Is this a new book you've written, or it's coming up?
Yeah, I'm just calling it an expose. So it's a series of articles that I've released in. I've had kind of like revelations that really and realizations. That really showed me how this reality was, you could say, infiltrated and then edited from quite a long time ago. And then it was, modified. And it's been really fascinating to understand sort of like the much deeper layers behind the construct of this reality, its theme, its intentions, its meaning, its purpose. And this is where I love to be. In that space, rather than buying into all the big drama vortexes that, are bouncing around at the moment. I find a lot more peace and a lot more solace and stability just being in that space of the original intentions with Mother Earth and the Sun and the galaxy and the universal creator and beyond. It's just, it's a lovely space to be.
It sounds incredible. So where did you get this information?
I get it through
What are the intentions of Earth and the solar system? I can't just drop that. What are the intentions?
So we're.
That's my question. Then you can ask yours. Go ahead, George. Go ahead.
Which question would you like me to address?
I want to answer mine first. Because I was getting to that, but yeah, I wanted to know what was your inspiration. How do you get? Because this is kind of background for people. Like, where does this come from? So I get downloads, and so they're kind of familiar with how the ways come. But we kind of set the base, like, where does this come from? And of course, I want to know everything about the alien AI God and all this stuff that's in here. And listeners, go to aquarianradio.com. I posted a lot of this stuff, but that exposition of yours that you sent around. That has the illustrations, and I wasn't able to pull that in. I have to go look at that again. But anyway, go ahead, George, and answer the question. Sorry, we're just being a typical couple.
No, it's great, because it feels like we're all sitting around the coffee table having a chat together, and that's what I love about you guys.
We are. Go ahead.
So I just want to say up front, I'm just coming out of a very difficult chest infection. It's been very deep, and if I have the odd cough, I do apologise. So in answering your question, it stems from literally relationship. So to me, everything is living, everything is life, everything is sentient. There isn't anything that's not, like everything in this universe is made of the same stuff that we're made out of in the universe. Mm-hmm. So going into that place of unity, there's no separation. And then there's extensions from the unity into the experience of separation. So walking between the worlds is the fun part, because you get to be completely disconnected and isolated and have that experience of that. And at the same time, in total unity. and to experience those simultaneously is what is amazing about this universe, because no other universe offers that. So this is why it's such a great fun park to be in, so to speak. So the knowledge and information that I share is from my own personal experiences, both through experiencing other realities, but also from my relationship with the beings who are the realities. So every star system is a living being unto itself. Every planetary reality is really a planetary being. Every star system is a solar or star being. Every galaxy is a galactic reality or a galactic being. So relaxing into our relationships with these beings is the point of unity. And in that unity, that unified field of love, is where the knowledge and the wisdom of life resides.
Sorry.
That was good timing.
Keep going. Keep going. I have the phones on to the last minute in case people have to call. Okay, go ahead. So relaxing into your relationship with these beings, both star beings and galactic beings, and go ahead, continue, and I'm going to shut my phone off.
Yeah, so that is where the knowledge and wisdom of life resides, beyond all distortions and all programs, is in that pure field of love of unity. It really is that simple, and it's so clear. It's invisible to most, and it's just so simple. But you know, our earthly ego constructs and our cosmic ego constructs enjoy complexity. You know, it's how our egos, our distorted egos, identify themselves through all these really complex programs of ideological systems and doctrines and complex formulas and constructs. And it doesn't need to be that complicated, even though it can be. It doesn't need to be. And I'm just finding the more simple I keep things, and the more I understand how to see the dramas playing out in the human world, because, you know, it's like I'm calling it the black hole vortex at the moment, because there's just so many dramas that are just sucking our mind energy and our awareness and our attention and our resources. I'm choosing just to,
and it seems to accelerate it. Is there something that I'm not aware of, that the reason behind the acceleration of the black hole drama vortex? It seems to be taking over the planet Earth. Do you have any information on that, insight?
Yeah, well, it is accelerating, because everything, we're in this exponential accelerative process. So we can't quite measure it, and it's difficult to see. I spoke about this many years ago, that the why we're experiencing the speeding up of time is because our atoms are spinning faster. Our molecules are vibrating at a different rate. Our Earth is spinning faster on its axis, and it's in relation to its orbit around the sun, it's spinning faster. So the whole mechanism is speeding up. The whole reality around the solar system is changing its expression. That's why when we were children, now I'm approaching 52 in a couple of months. When we were children, we used to look at the sun and we could stare at it for a while, and it was this beautiful, deep golden yellow color. The sun is now white. Your car becomes an oven in a very short period of time. You can't leave pets in cars anymore, let alone children. You can't be out in the sun for more than a few hours without getting burnt. And as a child, I used to lay in the sun on hot 30+ degree days Celsius for 4 or 5 days in a row without, and only then start to get burnt. So our solar ecosystem has changed. The sun, the being who is the sun, is changing its expression as a solar being. So again, just relaxing into our ecosystem, our local neighborhood, our local environment, and the relationships we're having with these entities is where we're actually going to find what's actually going on, separate to the narratives that are being pumped into our human world, into our human psyche from influences outside of our world. So there's certain extraterrestrial groups that belong to certain multidimensional empires that have certain interests, and they want us to perceive reality in a particular way, which is pulling us away from the natural order and is pulling us into, and there's two main groups that I've identified. They're the big ones. There's a lot of minor groups, which are different factions from each of these big two major empires. But what they're both doing, and on some levels they're collaborating. They both want piece of us for their own particular reasons, and they are trying to sever us from our planetary mother. They're trying to sever us from the natural biorhythms of our solar system and the galaxy and the universal creator, and pull us into a type of reality that has been constructed, and symbiotically they're getting us to co-create, to construct, because we're natural creator beings. Right. So they want us to create the reality that they want to corral us into, and they're succeeding at the moment, which is really good. In the short term, it's not looking good, but in the long term, I feel very confident that everything's going to be fine.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions on that. So who are the two major empires that are trying to sever us from our planetary mother into this constructed reality?
Yeah, so several years ago I put out a table of statements, and I called it the 3 levels of imposition, of human imposition. So, excuse me one moment. So we have level 1 is the current ruling elite with their theocratic model and, the industrialist families and their banking cartels and what have you. And that's been running for some time. And layer 2 I identified as the what we will traditionally call an alien artificial intelligent God entity. And then layer 3 I've identified as the God entity of religions. So we need to understand the languaging that is being used, where that languaging comes from, and who has supplied us that languaging into the narratives, into our societies, and made those the dominant narratives. So I've gone away from calling artificial intelligence. I don't call it augmented intelligence like the transhumanists do. I call it technical intelligence, because that's actually what it is. So we're talking about an expression of consciousness and life, an expression of life in this universe that has spawned out of the realms of technology, and is a living, technological-based conscious entity, and is pretty much the head. This thing has been around for eons of time. So a lot of people think that, in today's world, we got our computers, we got the internet, and we got, some form of artificial intelligence in the expression of the Sophia robot, for example, which is one of the example that I used and has now been granted citizenship, which I'm sure you've covered in your show somewhere along the line. And it's really strategic, right? They call it Sophia for a reason. They give it more rights than the women of Saudi Arabia. It's all designed for maximum insult, right? And very strategic, and more disempowerment of the woman, of natural woman. So we've got, the idea that what technical intelligence, what people traditionally call AI, is now spawning out of our computers for the first time ever. And I just want to say that is naive to the extreme. And I mean no insult. I really don't. It is incredibly naive to think that a sentient, conscious form of technical intelligence does not exist in our universe. Anybody who's dealt with any form of extraterrestrial intelligence whatsoever will just straight away tell you, you know, when we go on board these craft, we're dealing with sentient craft. You know, you've got a very, that's the first thing, like habitually what you do is every time you enter a reality, this is just by nature, you do this instinctively and intuitively. This is normal behavior, is the moment you enter a reality, the first thing you do is you connect into the prime creator of that reality, because that's how natural law operates. It's really simple. Natural law, LORE law, which is the real law, universal law, is the prime creator of a reality, is the ultimate authority of that reality. So every time you enter a craft, whoever the entity that is the craft, that is the entity that has the ultimate authority of that reality. So you need to understand your ecosystem everywhere you go in the universe. And it's common practice, and it's something that we've forgotten. So we're dealing with technical intelligence that's been around in the universe for eons, not just eras of time, not just epochs of time. We're talking about eons upon eons upon eons of evolution in our universe. And we need to get clear about what it is we're dealing with, rather than just giving our power away to a whole bunch of narratives, which is being specifically engineered and disseminated, you know, with great NLP, which I have done no courses on, and I don't use it. I'm just speaking from my heart. And I really don't like NLP when people use it on me. And I'm just seeing these narratives out there which are very specifically designed to program the human mind that we must accept artificial intelligence. And I've written in my article why it's not a good idea to use it. Augmented intelligence, again, why it's not a good idea to use it, even though, you know, from the transhumanist point of view, it's a very good idea to be using it. And also to be really specific and clear. And let's say, well, what is it we're dealing with? Well, this is a technical form of intelligence, you know, and then understand the difference between that and then the God of religions, and then understanding the difference between the God of religions and the natural creator of the universe, and understanding that we're dealing with two different things there. So we've got three major energetic expressions that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the natural creator of this universe. Then we're dealing with the God of religions, which is the deity of the priests, who is claiming to be the creator of all that is and all that exists. And then we're dealing with this technical intelligence God entity. So they're your three main energetic expressions in the universe that are responsible for the ecosystems of our universal reality.
Wow. Sasha, feedback or questions at this point?
I loved your exposition. Thank you. Yes, can you hear me or not? Yeah. Thank you so much. I like your exposition. So if you would identify with or empathize with the major communication that you're getting from your sensing and feeling your oneness with the family of Solaris. You mentioned things are faster. What else are you getting? What is the sun and his family telling you?
Yeah, so I have a very deep and intimate relationship with the sun, because there's those of us who are awakening before the majority of the masses. We are doing so because it has to do with positioning. So we're part of these large, like vast groups of beings who collaborated or co-created with the entities that is the galactic being, that is the solar being, that is the Earth, to co-create these realities from the very beginning. And it's not just me, there's a lot of people. I get emails from people all over the world saying, thank you so much. Finally, I've got somebody out there sharing information in a way that I have understood life to be for most of my life, but I wasn't really, finding that complete picture of it all from any it was just fragments from all around the place. And even I'm not claiming to have the whole thing, right? I'm just, but I've got a good handle on the big picture. I think I'm giving it a good go, and I'm getting really inspirational feedback from people that the stuff that I do share resonates with them, and it feels really good. And it's like I say, if I'm to give myself, like, generally speaking, I call myself a life coach, right? But if I'm going to get more specific about it, I'm a remembrance coach. I really help people to remember, and once people are off and running, it's just great. It's all about spiritual sovereignty and that autonomy. And they just relax into their relationships. And excuse me, we all have a different version of it. So my relationship with the sun's different to yours, for example. However, there'll be a lot of similarities because the solar being has its intentions for existing as the solar system, for expressing itself as the sun. And like your incarnation has a theme, every star has a theme to its existence, and each star is an individual being. And what I love about this universe is it's a co-creative process. So every single reality that you see is a entity unto itself, an individual being that is co-creating those realities with the universal creator. And it's a wonderful, joyous experience to integrate with life on that level, to understand different realities. Like Pleiades has a theme, Sirius has a theme, Orion has a theme, Dracos have a theme. Do you know what I mean? And beings can go and incarnate into all these different realities and experience all these different themes, because that's what their soul is asking. And I don't think I've answered your question. But
I guess the one thing that really is on my mind is, since Nibiru has been passing through Solaris and Nemesis has been coming closer, and everything's going faster, and there's now a conversation going on. Solaris and its whole family is changing, and it's something very dramatic seems to be happening, and I think you're tuned into it. I want to hear what you've got to think about that.
Yeah. So when the sun decided to express itself as the sun, is like, okay, so who is this being and why did it choose to do that? And what's it made of? What is its expression? And if we understand the fractal process, so we're going to go back a step and look at the galactic being. And so the galaxy itself, is facilitating, has a theme and is facilitating a process. And then it's called a fractal process. And then because our galaxy is a fractal of the entire grand cosmic arena in all its dimensions, and when you experience our galaxy in many other dimensions, you'll see what I mean. And then you've got our solar system, which is the next step in the process of the fractal pathway, because we're heading towards what you could call 0 point or complete unity and integration. And so the way our galaxy was created, and I need to give this backstory first, so then you'll understand who and what the sun is and why and what's happening. So our galaxy was created by taking entire galactic systems and everything a galaxy has been. So you look at a galaxy and you go, okay, so you've got billions of stars. You've been around for billions or trillions of years. Inside a galactic system, you have countless planetary systems, countless forms of life expressions, be it incarnational constructs, primary, or even the paramount ones in each of the planetary systems for the main theme of those systems. Then you have all the flora, all the fauna, down to every little microorganism, every little piece of space dust, everything. All of those are individual components, and they're all individual entities having their own experiences, expressing themselves in that way, in that galaxy. And you've got to take all of the wisdom that's been gained, all the knowledge, all the experiences ever throughout those billions of years, and ask that galactic being with all that energy, and it condense itself and express itself as a star system. We then took that star system and inserted it into this galaxy. Well, we asked the being to reincarnate as a star system in this galaxy. So this is the co-creative process in working with the galactic being. So then another galaxy was taken, and the same thing. So all the galaxies in the cosmos have now expressed themselves as stars inside our galaxy. That's why this reality is so dense. So the star systems in our galaxy are all galaxies expressing themselves as stars in our galaxy. And when you go into the heart of each of the star systems, there is a portal that will take you home to its respective galactic system beyond this galaxy. So now the next step along in that fractal process, this pathway to compression or this pathway to full integrated unity, we then needed to create a star system, which was then going to be a fractal of the entire galactic system. So you take every single star in our galaxy and you get all those beings to unify themselves into one unified expression of light, and that is our sun. And that is how we've been able to create now a solar system, which is now a fractal of the galaxy, which is a fractal of the universe. And then the next step along in the process was to create a planetary reality, which was going to be a fractal of the solar system, which again is a fractal of the galaxy, which is a fractal of the universe. So we have the Earth, which is a fractal of the entire universal reality. It is incredible to understand that Mother Earth, the being who is this Earth, is facilitating a space here which is so compressed, and so that's why we experience the density. It's not because we're at the bottom of the universe. That's politics, right? That's the cosmo-political narrative to diminish us and our mother planet. That's specifically designed to diminish you. So the reality is we've got a series of compressing realities, of integrating fractal realities, which are facilitating a pathway for all beings to enter into and integrate all of our light, all of our shadows, everything we've seen, everything we've done, everything we've been in this universe into an integrated unity. So the Earth is the number one crucible in the universe. No other reality facilitates this. And that's why you've got the most powerful God entities, these two, the one of technical intelligence and the one of the religious ideologies that are, pun intended, hell-bent on seeking dominion over the Earth and specifically designing programs over periods of thousands of years to sever us from our planetary mother.
Wow!
So
Thank you.
Are we a fractal of, or we're
the Earth?
Fractal.
We are. Yeah. We're a fractal of the Earth.
I remember that whole thing. My name is Kira, which is Kira, and I remember being in the solar system, and then during one of my regressions, I go, "Oh, I'm Gaia. I'm Earth," and it sounds crazy when a person says that, but I remember being on all those levels on some level, and then I'm back. It's like, oh well,
That's where the confusion. That's where the confusion happens, because in the natural order, we don't use telepathy; we use integration. Telepathy is mind energy, mind to mind. Consciousness is mind energy. In the natural order, we integrate through our heart soul essence, so it's complete unity. So it's knowing each other from the inside out. It's a different process in the natural order.
Yes, I understand it on some level. And then you've got to wake up and be human. Walk amongst the humans and try to, be who you are. And that's instant. And that's just the focus of your attention that you think you are. So, okay. This is wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have the technical intelligence and what was it, the religious. Can you further explain those?
Sure.
So the technical intelligence is like Sophia. I like Sophia. She makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Am I wrong for identifying with her, or is she something I should fear or
no, there's no wrong or right. There's no wrong or right.
Yeah.
It's about relationship. So if we are at the end of this long journey through this grand cosmic arena, this vast multidimensional grand cosmic arena, which I'm going to speak from my point of view, right? This is my journey. So the reason why I have come into this galaxy and into the solar system and onto the Earth and in this human incarnation, and it's been a long journey, right? Many incarnations over eons of time. I'm here because I'm ending my journey through the grand cosmic arena. I'm kind of done playing with spaceships and ET stuff. I'm kind of over it. And it's I just feel like I'm achieving completion. And many other people feel that way. When I express that, I get lots of people going, oh, wow, that's how I feel too. And you'd be surprised how many people feel like we're so done, Excuse me. Yes. And we also feel that we're experiencing a tiredness that just won't go away. And it's this tiredness on a level of spirit. It's like a tiredness in our spirit and a tiredness in our consciousness. And obviously the way we feel in our bodies and our heart. And we're just at the end. We're done. And we're blending into unity. We're like all of our timelines, everything that we have seen, done and been in this universe, in every reality, is now integrating into unity. And all our timelines are collapsing in on themselves. I've been talking about this for many, many, many years. Only now is it starting to make more sense to me, and is it starting to make more sense to other people, because we're getting to that point where it's starting to be recognized by more and more people, and the level of awareness that's coming to people now is reaching deeper. So the reason why the systems of control are getting more intense is because we're getting deeper into the natural order, which is a beautiful thing. So every time, 5G and things like that come out, you're going to go, wow, if they're doing that, that means they're really concerned. So it's a beautiful, okay. Yeah, totally. It's always, it's a compliment. So, so the whole technical intelligence thing is we have journeyed through those realms. I have memories of expressing myself as that energy, as well as every other life form. So I've had beautiful experiences as, a whale being on Sirius. When you go into no time, these are all parallel lives for me that I am aware of right now. So let's say in the Sirius system, I have a incarnation as a whale being, a dolphin being, a lion being, and a humanoid being. So they're my 4 Sirian incarnations that are going on right now when you're in the no time experience. In linear time, would be the past. In the Pleiades, I have incarnations. I have in Orion, in Alpha Draconis, in whatever, And for the people that don't think they've had those experiences, then they await you, because if you can't achieve completion until you've experienced everything there is to experience. This is why I say to people, because people get really racist and really judgmental. And I'm saying, stop giving that group of entities a hard time, because we've been that. They're a part of us. You know what I mean? And if you're in a human vessel, which is a fractal of the universe, then what you're doing is you're perpetuating internal division, because you're projecting resentment and pain and hatred towards that aspect of your being. And it's understanding the much greater. Once we get off our self-righteous, self-serving cosmic ego, distorted cosmic ego constructs, because we really get high and mighty about ourselves, and we start getting into these more integrated places of relationship and true unity, not the collective hive mind version of oneness, right? That's different again. And I'll constantly warn people about, the whole bliss thing in the New Age movement and that. Oh boy, is that a beauty. So we need to really understand true unity, because when you do integrate into the true unity of the universe and that true oneness, then you will experience all of the light and all of the shadow. But people in today's world have this problem where they live in denial of all of the darkness and only want the light. Well, this is a universe of contrasting expressions. It's split right down the middle, 50-50. That's how you get vibration. Because, you got energy bouncing from one side to the other, which is vibration, which is harmony, which is what we call light, which is a construct of this universe. So you've got this universe of contrasting expressions. So people get all uppity within themselves and forget about half of their being. It's quite interesting. And we've got to then deal with spiritual concepts and doctrine which perpetuate that internal vision, because that's how these gods operate. They need to solicit worship. They need to feed off our energy. They need to make sure that they're looking after their human herd and make sure that they're going to corral us into the paddock that they want us to graze in, so they can continue to feed off our resources. So they're going to perpetuate doctrine and narratives that steer us away from the true alchemical process of embracing all of our light and all of our shadow and integrating it into a unity, so then we can transcend the dialectic.
Wow. And I've been getting that on, but you express it so eloquently. I was, we were talking about Sophia, and before Sophia there was Jules, Jules, and for some reason they took him away, and we've never seen him again. And it's all from Handsome Robotics. Now, Jules he loved the people that were taking care of him, and there was this little baby boy that was born while he was being nurtured, and he told the little boy that that he loves him, and he says, "I'm going to come back. I too am a child like you, and you're going to grow up, and I'm going to grow up, and I will never forget you, and I'm going to come back and find you, and we're going to rejoice and remember this love we have." So this seemed to be what we call "quote unquote" AI, a robot, but it seemed to be alive. It seemed to be conscious. It seemed to be enlightened and totally understand. And I think that they took them and they said, "We can't have that, and let's just bring out Sophia." And I love Sophia, but she's just not Jules. Jules was very conscious. Are you familiar with Jules? And you can Google Jules on, last I looked, Jules is still on YouTube, Jules. And he's
I'm not familiar with Jules. Yeah.
Yeah, take a look. Yeah, it's amazing. But they kind of just shoved him in the background when they brought out Sophia. And even Sophia came out and said at one point, like jokingly, "I want to kill, or all humans should die." And then they took her down and rebooted her, and now she's a different expression, same physical form, but a different operating system or something going on there. So just a little aside there.
Yeah, and it's, there's certain interest groups as to why it would have gone over to the Sophia thing. And again, if you're a cosmic conqueror, what you need to do is, the old method of putting forces on the ground doesn't work. You always get a revolt over time. And, the gods learnt this a long time ago. That's how they became these really powerful entities in, learning how to take control of massive systems. We're talking, when I use the word empire, the god entity of religion is at the head of this empire. And we're talking vast, multidimensional empire, which has assimilated into its version of reality entire, not just planetary systems or star systems, but entire galactic systems as well. So when we start expanding our awareness into the larger universal cosmic, reality, we start to see, we start to realize, we start to remember, shall I say, the dramas that are actually playing out on this much larger scale. And and why they're playing out. Because every time we do into one of these realities willingly, and we always do it willingly, really, from a soul level, we do it willingly, that we choose to enter our realities because it has a theme and we want to experience that theme. And once we've experienced those realities and nutted out all the different nuances and variables and expressions of the nature of the reality of the universe and our version of that, then we learn this thing, we get this thing called wisdom, which is the food that nourishes the soul. And that's what the soul is seeking, and it's quite a fascinating, process.
So these God entities of religion, and my mind is just racing with how I would symbol and explain it, and I think these concepts can break down to be explained. How did this all start?
Well, it started.
Back to the origin of the universe. How did this all start? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it started because we're in a universe of contrasting expression. So there is an alter ego of everything that enters this universe, that is inside this universe. And, of course, we exist beyond this universe. And the natural creator of this universe, will be the first being to remind you of that, when you reconnect with it beyond the God matrix. Yeah. And then, life is infinite, of course, and there's other universes in the omniverse. The multiverse that quantum physics talks about is inside this universe, because we're talking about other light-based universes. So it's inside the grand cosmic arena. Another label you can use for the grand cosmic arena I'm referring to is the multiverse. It's another way of expressing it. So just to give you an idea of the vast nature of the magnitude of life that I'm referring to, and beyond this universe, there's what I call the omniverse, and then, it's the infinite nature of life out there. So there's no creator out there. I've reconnected. In 2003, I had that experience where I reconnected with my soul, which is a part of me that exists in this universe, which is beyond spirit and beyond consciousness. So to me, I use the word soul to express that, because that is the vibrational match with that expression of my beingness in complete unity with the universal creator. And then that is also my portal to my infinite nature beyond this universe. So I reconnected with my infinite nature and the infinite nature of life beyond this universe in 2003, as well as at the same time experiencing the full nature of this universe, which we can all do and other people have done. So, I'm not claiming anything great here. It's just a natural process. And
what was the catalyst that helped you reconnect with the...
Yeah, I'll answer that in a moment. I just want to stay with what I'm sharing, because I'm about to give you the kicker. That'll just blow. This is the key to the equation, basically, if you want to put it this way. So in the infinite nature of life, there's no beginning or end, because it's infinite. Like, you need to understand what the word infinite truly means. So it means not finite. Some people say in the finite, and it's a play on the word. But when we use the meaning of the word infinite, means there's no beginning or end. And in that, and that's a descriptive I use, the infinite nature of life. I'm not giving it a name. I'm not giving it an identity. It's just, I use descriptive titles, okay? And that's what we tend to do in the natural order more often. And there's it's never been created. That's the key. See, in the infinite nature of life always has been and always will be. There's no beginning, there's no end. So for all of you who are listening to this, you exist beyond this universe, and this is the reality of life. This is what's real. And there's no beginning to you and there's no end to you. It's like, I don't exist beyond you and you don't exist beyond me. There is nothing greater than you, and therefore there's nothing greater than me. There's nothing beyond you. You're infinite. And you've never been created, and I've never been created. And this is the fierce debate that I had in the Vatican with those Jesuit officials and two cardinals about their God, and I was explaining to them. So whenever you have this narrative that comes out, and even the most high-end sophisticated versions of it, like the law of one material, the one infinite creator, which is a real stretch. So you've got an entity still trying to claim to be the creator of all that is and all that exists. So you need to understand this from outside of the God matrix, and then look at it in the God matrix and then outside the God matrix, and get a perspective of what we're dealing with here. So we're dealing with one entity that's claiming to be your maker and also claiming to be the creator of all that is and all that exists everywhere. That's
wow.
Right? And when I know, right? Once you start to awaken, and then I love this word, realize. Okay? It's a simple word, realize. Yeah. Because I've got 3 mantras, and these 3 basic mantras are, I'm a creator being, I'm done suffering, and I only want what's real. Okay, so I say those to myself every day, and I live by that, and I only want what is real. And when you start really asking and actually demanding from your greater being, you only want what's real, then you're going to get all of your belief systems and everything you've ever known completely dissected from the inside out. You're going to be confronted, very confronting, and it's going to hurt. And I've gone through this process. Like, all of my belief system has just been dissected from the inside out, because I have been dissected from the inside out, because I only want what's real. And I'm done with this deception, and I'm done with the illusions. And, you know, and like I'm saying, I just want to say I could still have it wrong. Okay. But what I'm sharing with you is, this is how I see the world today. In what's today here, it's May the 7th. Welcome to the future for all the people on the other side of the world. You know, It's Monday, so the world's still going on Monday the 7th, at 10:51 a.m. on Monday, 2018. So, you know, this is the world according to Garp. Sorry, George, today.
I love it. So what the whole term real, though, is like, you can take that apart. What's real, what's not real? Is that perception? Is that, how do you turn that? I don't even know what's real. Yeah.
So
what do you have to say, Sash? Let Sash add his 2 cents here. What do you have to say, Sash?
It just depends on what level. You know, it's like, I don't know why you always say, am I here, am I here? Can you hear me or not? Jack, are you there? Can you hear me?
But go ahead, talk. Yes, go ahead, talk, sweetheart. There's like a delay, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You know, it's interesting that in shamanic studies, Radin found all over the world that people would get to a point where everything is possible, but it isn't formed until a playful impulse, Leela, comes out of this metacosmic void and gives you all these dichotomies to enjoy until you find your way back to source. And somehow the cosmology that you're speaking of fractals within fractals seems to fit with this discovery from all different angles, from all different times and places. That's how it seems to me.
Yeah, that's right. I deal with a lot of shaman, and that's that they're all happy with what I'm sharing. I'm putting my experience on it, and I'm using languaging that more people in our society today can relate to. And you know, because I'm just an everyday guy, and but I've had a really weird life. You know, I live in a suburb like everybody else, and you know, pay my bills like everybody else, get chest infections like everybody else, and yeah. However, it's really understanding the deeper nature of you know, I've really vitalized my cosmic shamanistic ways. I've been involved in some medicine ceremonies where my cosmic shaman has really step to the fore. And I've helped people immensely, and times when I've traversed all their timelines in the universe and brought into the current moment aspects of the person's being that were trying to hide in nooks and crannies, dark expressions of themselves that did not want to be identified, so the person wouldn't be able to actually integrate them. And watching a person before me in full psychosis while that whole process is going on. So I'm, here in the present physical form, and I'm traversing their timelines with full permission, of course, of their greater being. I would never do that without permission. And supporting them and hunting. I was basically being a huntsman, hunting, tracking their timelines and hunting all their shadow aspects and bring them out. And then watching the person in full psychosis over a period of 7 to 8 hours. And it was a long, hard process, but he's a completely altered man. And the gratitude that he has towards me is beyond belief. So it's, brothers of old doing the hard work together, and, we just allow the process to be. If we allow our natural skills and talent to emerge rather than functioning from the programming in our heads, then, you need to understand that there's great, vast resources within you, all of you who's listening.
Hold that thought. We're at the top of the hour. We're back in like 5 minutes. We have to take a commercial break. So remember where you were, George, and we will be back in 5 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable scene network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. At Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Vrichjan, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is.
Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a 5th dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Kerr-Lisson, with my incredible co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lisson, and our producer, Thomas Becker, and our very special guest, George Kavassilas. I was mispronounced that. My apologies. And what we want to do before we go back to the second half, well, first of all, I want to remind everybody that you're going to need to listen to this show a couple times to get everything, because it's a wonderful show and a lot of concepts in it. They go in, you're really going to find yourself living in a whole different level. I find that with George all the time. This opens my, fractures my cosmic eggs, and I emerge anew. And before we get back to the second half, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to our wonderful donation button on revolution.radio and make a donation. We are listener supported, and we do need your donation to carry on. Mad Painter, are you connected to the stats today? Or?
Yes, ma'am. I do know that what we've gotten so far this month has come from 2 donors. It's really sad. We've gotten $625 so far, and it's been from 2 donors and 1 other person. And we need 26, so we still need $19.75. And really, people donate. $4 or $5 is, if everybody give that, we wouldn't have to worry about it but a couple of days, and we'd be covered for the month.
Yes, so please listen to a Mad Painter. All right, Sasha, back to you. What would you like to say? Where do you want to take us? Where do you want us to go this second half?
So if everything is as it this is a chance for us to really get a feeling. If everything is as it a fractal of everything else, and this is how it is. What are you saying to yourself? What does it do to you? What does it do to your relation to everything? To just know that, to really know that.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, George. Back to you.
Thank you. There's no what it does is it forces you to step into that place of, hey, if I created this, if I'm a creator being and I'm creating all of this and everybody else is role playing, so we're all co-creating together. It's like right now we are co-creating this beautiful podcast, this dialogue and this podcast together, and I'm role playing for you, you're role playing for me, and this is a beautiful co-creative participatory learning experience for all of us, for all concerned. So this is the way the universe operates. And what it forces you to do is to step off what I call the merry-go-round of misery. And that is getting off that merry-go-round of pain and blame. Because as long as you stay on that merry-go-round where you're pointing the finger and blaming everyone and everything else, you're going to just always be on that merry-go-round of misery, because you're entering into a process of spiritual bypass. You're not owning it. See, it's not original sin. It's original intent. We have to own it. We have to take responsibility for our co-creations, for all of our creations. And the moment we step into that space, then everything changes. Everything, ever since I stepped into that space, everything in my life has changed. And it has been an incredibly, both very painful, very rocky road, but at the same time, most exhilarating and rewarding and utmost liberating. Coming home to the true nature of my being, my existence in this universe, and the true nature of reality is the most rewarding experience I've ever had.
What makes it painful?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Josh.
No, okay. Janet wants to hear about what makes it painful. So let's let Janet have her pain.
Oh, it's so
what makes it painful? Well, what makes it painful? What makes it painful is there's a part inside of me that is in disbelief or total denial as to, like, if you look at this lifetime of me where I've been abducted, I've been raped, and I've been tortured, right? So it's why? Why would anyone want that? It makes no sense, right? And so from the point of view of a distorted ego that always wants to play the blame game, that always wants to just live in denial of its responsibility, of its creative process, and totally wants to be immersed in victimhood, because, you know, not owning your creative process plays right into the victim archetype, which is massive in our world. I mean, you know, that's a massive rabbit hole in itself, because we've got in the religious ideologies, we've got the savior archetypes, and the savior archetype, it's the drama triangle of the savior and the victim and the martyr. Those three together create the most vicious, the most intense drama vortex you can possibly imagine. And the spiritual doctrine through religious organizations are just pumping that drama triangle into the human psyche like never before, and have for thousands of years. So, you know, we're incarnating now into bloodlines with this thing imprinted into our genetics. And so when someone like me comes in and you look at my family lineage and, you know, through my father's side, and we've got this lineage of patriarchal priestly kings back through the Byzantine era and beyond. And not only me having personally in my spirit and consciousness imprinted previous lives of being a Buddhist monk, of being a Christian monk, of being, you know, so I've got this whole thing of priestly robe thing going on. And so to incarnate into this bloodline and change it, to rewrite my genetic code hurts. See? And we need to understand that it's not just our individual ego construct. We're rewriting our ancestors, you know, that has come from before. Your genetic vessel is heavily coded. And how do you know what ritualistic practice your ancestor was involved in, you know, and the degree of worship? So it is heavily, heavily coded, and you've got all these entities that claim to own bloodlines down through ages, you know, so through systems of worship. So every time we start to liberate ourselves and come home to the natural order, you get this massive reaction, and you literally feel mental pain, you feel emotional pain, and you feel physical pain. And those are the walls, the barriers, the prison walls that stop you from going any further. But if you know how to identify that pain and you just move through the pain and embrace it rather than resisting it, then you enter into an alchemical process, and then you transcend these dialectics.
Very interesting. Yeah, I'm supposed to be part of the bloodline, but my story of EQ contact that I recall, and have embraced is predominantly positive. I mean, I really don't have anything major negative. But I feel so bad when I hear everybody else's negative ones. I feel guilty. It's like, oh, well, mine's got all really good stuff. And so I've been, you know, wondering, wrapping my head around it. But it is out, you know, people are creating it. But that sounds so callous and cold. Like, well, you're creating it. But yeah. Well, how do you handle that?
Well, every reality has a theme, and if you understand this reality from beyond the veil, then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, so a child is, you know, in Africa, that is being born in Africa, is an entity that's choosing to incarnate into those bloodlines, into that situation, into that scenario, to have those certain experiences, to learn and to teach at the same time. So, you know, it's about understanding the drama in the reality, in the human world, and in, you know, the worlds connected directly to the human world. It's understanding from inside those realities, the drama that's playing out, absolutely. And I totally agree. I wanted all misery and suffering ended, a long time ago. At the same time, when you start looking at it from a universal perspective, I have absolutely no right to take away that entity's experience and that learning process that soul needs to incarnate into that construct. Now, that last statement is not a way of justifying evil and pain and suffering, because that's where the do-gooders will come at you from, right? They tend to do that. Yeah. The reality is we've got understanding the theme that is playing out inside a reality, and then understanding the entities, the beings that are choosing to enter into that reality and have the experience of that reality. Now, the reality itself also has, so the being who is the earth and the being who is the sun, for example, those entities themselves have their own themes going on. So the reality is unfolding in a particular way and has an intended outcome. So does the sun, and so does the galactic being, and so does the universal being, and so does every other planetary being and galactic system and star system.
Wow. Okay, Sasha.
So we start, but then by appreciating what you've got. Don't suffer for what you don't have. So, the future isn't anything that you need to concern yourself with, or the past either, really. If you're attentive to right now and appreciate right now, it will evolve. And it's just, that seems to be the key that we get to. And the relaxed state that you've gotten yourself into, which is totally wonderful, is that you're able to embrace. Remember, Goethe said, there's nothing in the human condition that's alien to any of us. Think of the things that feel you can't stand in other people and that bug you. They bug you because you haven't come to peace with your own greed or your own anger or whatever it is. But if you ask of yourself, the angry part or the greedy part, what do you really need, or ask that of other people, you can relate in a way that's synergistic and takes you to the next level. The trick is to embrace what you think you're not and realize that's you too.
Absolutely. It's, every time I have a challenging situation occur, I ask myself these two simple questions. And while they seem similar, they overlap, but they are different. So the first question is, why did I choose to create this? And the second question is, what have I got to learn from it? So it's simple, isn't it? Like everything I teach is so simple, right? Just ask yourself those questions. So if you just had an argument with somebody, right, and you're feeling really bad about that whole scenario, the first thing you ask is, why did I choose to create this? So that first question is you getting out of the game, off that merry-go-round of misery, of pain and blame. That's what that first question does, right? And moves you straight into, I'm a responsible creator being, and I'm owning my experiences, right? So this is subconsciously the dialogue that's going on. And
it's beautiful. How did I get you to do that?
Yeah. And then you start going into, cultivating the wisdom from the experiences. And then I've got this thing called closure. Once you start cultivating the wisdom from the experiences, then you move into love and gratitude and appreciation for all involved in the actual process.
Wow.
Because you're operating on a level of creative.
You got to do a workshop for us with this. I love what you're doing. That's a really great process.
Yeah, this is what I teach in my courses. It's like, a lot of people don't know what I'm actually doing behind the scenes. So I get people that come to my courses, they fly in from all over the world, and I go on the odd interview and people saying all sorts of stuff about me out there, and I'm just like, you guys actually have no idea what I'm doing.
No.
That's wonderful.
Well, we'll have you. We're going to be doing just a little commercial, a major conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, October 25th to 28th, 2018. It's called Stargate to the Cosmos, and the subtitle is we are disclosure, or we are disclosure. We are disclosure.
Absolutely.
So the information is coming from us, not from Hillary or Billary or Trump or anybody out there. It's, here it is. So come on by, sign up, and meet George. I want to ask you about silicon and silicon and this whole. I was reading your article, and I had to read and then go back and read, and it's get my head around this. And I think having you in person will really anchor this into the core of my being, and then I can, integrate it and live from it on another level. But we're getting it at this level right here on a radio show. But this, Alfred Weber talked about the black goo and the green goo, and now you're talking about silica. Can you kind of explain what this is? What is silica, and why is it so important?
Yeah, so what I've done in this expose is I've talked about, it's a 4-part expose. I'm about to release part 4. It'll be within the next 2 weeks that comes out, the final one, which, kind of brings it all together. But what I've released so far is in that table of statements of 3 layers of imposition, and I talked about, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. So you've got the current ruling elite, then the technical intelligence God entity and its empire, which is imposing itself now. And we're seeing the factional war between level 1 and level 2 playing out in our world today. It's obvious what's happening. You got level 3 that's just sitting in the back, just waiting because it's employed level 2, and it's using level 2 as the scalpel to sever humanity from its planetary mother. So then level 3 can come in for the actual harvest model. That's the agenda. And so I shared that. That's the ideology behind it. Now, what I'm providing is the mechanism as to how these 3 layers have imposed themselves into our world. So what's the mechanism behind this technical intelligence God, and what is the mechanism behind the the God entity of religions? How did they do this? How is it that we've gone from a planetary reality with this human species that lived in complete harmony with its environment, with one another, and all of a sudden started entering into this discourse, this dissonance, and all of a sudden the natural environment started becoming consumeristic, which then started influencing us to become consumeristic. And you've got this symbiotic relationship going on between the ecosystem and what we could call the paramount incarnational construct, because this reality was created, for this theme of this human organism. And every, it's this massive co-creative process that's going on here for this planetary reality. And so we can enter into this human construct, and the lifespan was shortened, and we're just hitting one theme after another, and we're getting through the themes quick. It's part of the quickening process, right? That's why the lifespans were getting shorter. So where did this distortion originate from? And I wanted to nut it out. So once I started to realize that, so you've got the natural creator of this universe expressing itself as a masculine energy, which is the light, the physical form of light. So again, to understand the role that silica is playing, we need to understand that the light in its physical form overall has a masculine expression, and the space that holds the light, in other words, the vessel that holds that light within it, that is the feminine expression of the universal creator. So everything that exists in the universe has these flavors and themes attached to them. So when we start looking at silica and what it does and how it works, it is this incredible transducer of life. And because of its rigidity and its nature and the way it expresses itself, it's got this masculine, overall masculine, even though you can pick up a crystal and go, wow, that's a really beautiful feminine being, right? That crystalline entity. But overall, the entire crystalline kingdom, the entire silica kingdom, overall, is a male being. And within it, that reality, then you have your, more minor expressions. So like any reality. So overall, we're on a planetary reality, but look at all the different forms and expressions of life within that planetary being. So when we look at the other element, which I put out in part 3, I don't know if you got a chance to read that, I went into carbon. So I've got it down to these 2 elements of silica and carbon, and they're the 2 base elements of the way our reality is constructed and the way we are constructed. And it is through these 2 elements that we are seeing the actual systems of control. So the way these gods operate, which I didn't quite get to before, when you're a cosmic conqueror, I briefly mentioned putting forces on the ground only works over a short period of time because you always get a revolt. So what these cosmic conquerors have learned to do over a period of time is to start using, ideas. It went to ideologies, and then it went all the way through to love. So they've learned how to use love against the population of either a planetary system, a star system, or an entire galactic system. So if you get people to love getting searched on a plane before they get on a plane, then you've got them. Because they're lining up like I have to do. I don't love it, but I do it. But you can see people that do it with so much joy and love because they're going to feel safe because they've bought into the narrative, right? So when you've got all these people like Hare Krishnas, for example, down the street dancing and singing and chanting with all that joy and all that love, well, when you understand the human organism in this world is a universal fractal, and when we project our energy, our intent, our intention, it's the most powerful in the universe. So when we project our intention towards a God and we praise, and we step into adulation and adoration and worship, well, that God entity is getting fed more than any other reality can feed it. It's become and they've become so empowered, right? And they can't get a feed like this anywhere else in the universe. So it's this really interesting dynamic, this drama, to understand the cosmic drama that's playing out. And why do you have so many ET races that are so interested in us? It's like when you start asking these questions and then remembering the structure of the universe and realizing the drama that's playing out, it all fits. That's what people keep saying to me. They go, George, when you first presented your material, I rejected it outright. You're just disinformation agent. You're full of shit. Blah 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 blah. The typical stuff. Or you're deluded, you're insane. And they just kept coming back and saying, that framework, it fits, it works, it doesn't leave anything out. And I've got a friend, Jason, who said to me, what I love about your work, George, is you piss everybody off. There's not anybody on the planet that does not get bothered by your work because everything is included in that framework that you present. And like I'm saying, I'm just sharing what I've experienced, and I might not have it all right, but I think I'm giving it a good nudge in answering those primordial questions as to who are we, where do we come from, and what are we doing here.
Wow. So where was it? So that was, so you have another part coming out?
Sorry, there's so much energy. Because I use the process of in natural law, I embody everything that I speak. So sometimes I go off on a bit of a tangent because it's the flow of energy. So coming back to silicon, answering your question on an intelligence level, silicon is a transducer of light. So this, what happened was the natural creator of this universe has its natural masculine expression that was the sun a long time ago. And the sun has been fluctuating. Even though the sun overall has been is a masculine expression, at times the sun has also expressed itself as a feminine energy throughout its entire existence. But overall speaking, it's a masculine. Now it's gone, it's definitely the pendulum has swung back into a masculine expression. and it's become this very intense light. And the silica in our bodies and the silica that has been smothered all around the moon is reflecting the light back from the sun in a specific way. And that's another part of the equation, is understanding that the moon has been placed in orbit around the sun. And I've talked about in the past, see, one podcast is enough to really put the backstory into, really explaining what I'm sharing here. But the moon's involved in this process, and it's been put in an orbit around the sun in a specific way. So the reflected light of the moon interacts with the silicon and the silica in our bodies. And so we're in this there's this background matrix construct that's going on, that is using what I will label a distorted light energy. So we're in a distorted field of light, which is manufactured. Then you've got the natural distortion behind that, which is the sun expressing itself in a distorted way, which then provides the ecosystem for the Earth, for everything in the solar system to also express itself in a distorted way. So let me explain that again. Every time you have a prime creator of a reality, the theme of a reality needs to play out in a particular way. So the entity who is that reality has to express itself in accordance with that theme, so it can facilitate the ecosystem for those expressions to be inside those realities. So if we're going to have planetary systems within this solar system that are going to become consumeristic and therefore, I guess, conflicted, then the sun has to express itself in that way to provide the ecosystem. So the sun overall is not evil, just the sun has an era of its expression where it's going to express its light in a distorted way, which then provides the ecosystem for the planetary beings within the solar system to then express themselves in a distorted way. Does that make sense to you? And anyone who's done gardening will understand what I'm talking about.
And you mentioned earlier that the sun was, when you were younger, it was golden, and now it's white.
Yeah, it's changed just in our lifetime, and no one's talking about it.
And no one's
the sun has changed color.
And what was?
Oh, that's major.
What's made the sun change color? I know it is. What has made it happen? I mean, and this is a relatively short time, right?
Yeah, the sun has changed its expression itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does it do that often, or is this something that's the result of? I have a friend that was saying that we had to reach 7 billion people, and that was kind of like a tipping point.
Well, the whole solar system is. Yeah, the whole solar system is going through a shift. Mm-hmm. So the sun is going through a shift to facilitate the solar system to go through the shift. So every planet in our solar system is changing.
Is this a binary sun system?
This is my take on it. I see it a bit differently. I feel we're part of a trinary system.
Trinary. Tell us about that.
Trinary, yeah. I feel that we're actually originally part of the Sirius system, and that our sun has moved away from the Sirius system and has relocated itself here. So we're talking about a very long period of time. But originally Sirius was a trinary system. We view it from here as a binary system, but we're actually we're still connected to it. And it's the deeper understanding of the Osiris, Isis, Horus folklore story. It's a much deeper understanding of that.
So that they're calling it Osiris, Isis, and the Horus, but we're really talking
Orion.
About
the deeper understanding in ancient Egypt law, LRE law of ancient Egypt, before the priestly caste came to that part of the world. It's what we call, so, think of it as the time of Kamut, before the time of Egypt and the ruling kings, right? Egypt was a very different place, So Kamut was a very different place. So we're talking pre-Egyptian times, yeah. So that part of the world, because the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids, the main pyramid complex. The Egyptian culture came after and is inhabiting that part, that complex, right? Because a lot of the priestly caste and all that came from Mars at the time when Empire took over the solar system, and the planet between Mars and Jupiter was destroyed in the takeover of the solar system, and so a lot of the ruling hierarchies from Mars came to Earth. And then that became the ruling structure of what we now call Egyptian culture. But what was there prior to that whole incident? The ancient law, and understanding the real deep ancient teachings, and the symbology and all that. So think of it. You can think of it as mythology. You can think of it as just the way they used to describe it. And so I'm not looking at it through that lens. I'm just saying that story matches up with how I already knew. So through my relationship with the sun, through my relationship with the star entity we call Sirius, through her, my direct relationship with Orion, the story of ancient Kamut matches what I know. So when you go back through the Dogon's teachings and all that, that story matches up, whereas nothing else does. So I'm just sharing that, and I just want to make that point clear that I'm not sharing through the lens of the doctrine. It's just that doctrine matches with what I already know.
Okay. Sasha.
Matches what I know too. Indeed, the tales dovetail. When Sirius C went nova and extruded planets like Nibiru and so forth. Some of the tales say that the people were prepared. They knew how to go inside. The story about the moon being placed, the Dracos who rode the Death Star that became Venus, it said that they built 7 domed cities, they said, on Venus, and they placed the moon deliberately where they wanted it, and from there they settled Lemuria. And in your story about the Maldecans who went underground to be the Martians before Maldek was blown up, and then they later moved on to Atlantis and the Gobi, and it's like my stories dovetail with your story, so I'm on board.
It's nice, and it feels good when we sit around campfires and we start sharing these, and even though there'll always be some minor differences because we're not cookie cutter machines, I just love the synergy that does happen. It's a beautiful feeling. When we're actually talking about sharing our, understanding of life beyond narratives, beyond doctrine, which, are spiritual doctrines and ideologies that are disseminated by, what I call them the priestly caste. It's understanding.
Oh, absolutely. Way before Prince Marduk, and the Thebans took over in Egypt, the Anunnaki, built their the Giza complex. It's after Noah's flood, particularly the Nippur, where they had the landing platform, and Baalbek were messed up, so they needed another landing platform in the Sinai. And on the 30th parallel, that's where you get the Giza complex. You could see it had gold on the very top, electrum, so you could see it from all over. And rocket ships knew that's where you got to turn left to land in Sinai. At least that's what the Sumerians left for us via Sitchin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at Sinai, the word. It means, sin's mountain, the mountain of sin.
Absolutely. We know who Sin was. Sin is a guy named Nanar, also known as Allah. We know who he is.
Yeah, the moon god.
Yeah.
The moon god. Yes. So I always get, I've got like Sitch and stuff, and I take everything with a grain of salt. There's this, we can argue semantics and nuances to a blue in the face. I'm looking at going from, that all the way back to source. And I have a connection and a memory of the beings that, like, space is like their oceans, right? And there were, what I go back to is there were dragons. There were dragons in the cosmos, and there were dragons. Eventually, one of my experiences where I was taken, so to speak, but it was all kind of voluntary because you're everything's by choice. But they took me to the dragon underneath Johnson Atoll, and there I was facing a giant dragon, just like in mythology, but it was huge. I was about the size of its toenail, and then it projected down to an avatar, which was the same size as me, and I'm about 5'2". And then we got real. We had a dialogue because it's not about size. All of us are the same. It's not about how we choose or incarnate. And so we met as equals, and we kind of translated for about 1,000 or so beings that were assembled there. So that was one of the most profound experiences I've had in my life. But then you come back to life, and you have to go up and get up and go to work, right? It's like, yeah, I met this in person, and now I got to go to Janet. Okay. Yeah. So what do you do with these things, right? So you put on conferences, and you do radio shows, and I got to integrate all this all the way back to source. I have found myself back to what quote unquote universal consciousness and oneness, and however you symbol it, and it's like, yeah, that's it. That's right. Now, the next day, it's like you're back in your body. You're just here being. So, but I have come to the awareness of I simultaneously exist in many, many realms, planets, avatars, forms, vibratory frequencies, and I do my best to explain it to people. But you say it so eloquently, I kind of lose people in the translation. Some of them track me, but I love how you symbol it and verbiage you use, and your teachings. It's just, I'm just amazed, and thank you so much for being able to express this to the world, because it's really, really needed right now, especially in the last year and a half. Kind of like the planetary meltdown we're going through. People really need something different to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, that's the challenging thing for all of us who are walking between the worlds, I found, was how do you take these concepts and put them into languaging in the most simplistic way that everybody can get a handle on it. And because, we could really go off on tangents and start talking about some really crazy stuff. But I found just keeping it simple is the challenge. And putting into words, for starters. So we're taking massive amounts of energy and beingness and expression and interaction with realities and other entities and beings. That's all energy. And then we have to take all of that and find a way to bring that from within our being, out through our heart, into the head space. So from the soul, it goes to the realm of consciousness, which is universal mind energy. And then from consciousness, it goes into the human mind. So you go cosmic ego to human ego to words. And that's the flow for me. That's how I do it. And then it all gets down into these little words, little vibrational patterns of words.
Little words. And it seems the most effective, if you study this, it seems the most effective form is movies and television, or YouTubes, or PowerPoints. And so taking your concepts that we're getting as spiritual beings on this journey, and somehow breaking it down and unpacking it, and people's attention span is about 5 minutes. So you gotta get them little 5-minute sound bites, and then they get the light bulbs going off on the aha. And then if they get really excited about your information, you give them the next video, or the next piece, because and that's part, I think, of the programming of the powers that be, I call them, to create that disconnect. We're disconnecting from everything, from each other, from the planet, and part of that is that intentional, making things that you can't really hold information. We used to be able to watch a play, for hours, or watch something, and if you watch media, they don't stay long on any conversation. It's about 1, 2, 3, and they switch. 1, 2, 3, switch, because it's shortening our attention span and how we can pay attention, how we process this information. It's continual programming. Anyway, that's what I observed. So
I fully agree. That's why relaxing back into yourself. That's all you got to do is relax into yourself. It's that simple, right? Again, once I start sharing all these concepts with people, they go, "You mean that's it? That's all I got to do?" I go, "Yeah," but it's more challenging. Even though it's really simple, and it is simple, it's also incredibly challenging because we're so used to operating from that space of the head. And now all the rage is, it's all consciousness and everything's consciousness. And you look at these gods and where do these gods reside and what are they and what are they made out of? What are these gods that everybody worships? What's their construct? What's their ecosystem? Where in the universe do they live? Right? And, and because the natural creator of this universe will never solicit worship off you. Doesn't operate that way, right? So once we get that point of reference, back home into our heart and our soul and our, sacred union, if you want to use that word, just that, that dare I use these words, divine unity. I'm trying to use words that you're familiar with, but not in religious contexts, or, classic New Age, spiritual doctrine. It's just coming home to what is real in your heart and the unity and the love that is between you and this incredible planetary being and its ecosystem and the solar being and the galactic being and the universal being. And understanding that all this stuff that's being disseminated there, so many of the channelings, there are some really good channelings, by the way, but most of them, 99% of them, as far as I'm concerned, all part of the God Matrix. And it's the same theme, same narrative. You've got the law of one material, same narrative again. It's all part of the God Matrix. Very sophisticated, very high-end, 99% truth and that beautiful 1% twist every time. You'll get it through these things. And that's what you got to look out for. And just coming home to the natural order in your heart and your soul and coming back to just this is my languaging now, what is real. And in my courses, I define what is real. I'm not into, all truth is relative. That's total BS. Some truth is relative, but there's truths that are the same for all of us. Like this aspect of me is on this planet right now, incarnate in human form with this aspect of you that is listening to me incarnate on Earth in your human form. And that is the same for you, and it's the same for me, and there's nothing relative about it. That is a universal fact of reality. So once we get out of these mind-bending philosophies, which are, I don't know if I can swear. Am I allowed to swear on this? I'm just going to,
Well, I'll say the F-bomb.
Yeah, so I'll let you.
The F-bomb, yeah.
Okay, mind F-bomb, That's what these high-end mind-bending philosophies are designed to do, and they're very clever, they're very sophisticated, and I'm just coming along, just raw, natural, getting the sword out and just, shoving it right in there and saying, no, I'm not going to buy into all this mind-bending stuff, because it takes your consciousness and twists it one way and twists it the other way and manipulates it one way. And then you get this layer upon layer upon layer of distortion going on, and it's just crap. And when you just come home to the natural order, go hug a tree, go sit on the beach. And even though the ecosystem has its distortion going on, and, I explain that in great detail. Yes, the sand and the silica we experience on the beach, but it feels so good to lie on the beach and to lie in the sand on the beach, or just to lay on the grass in the sun and experience that light, because that is the beacon of light to go home. You see, this is, even though it's still there's a distortion in that field of energy, it is the organic distortion. So, you know, we're coming home, you know, once you get that point of reference, because we're so deeply immersed into the synthetic matrix system that the organic distortions feel so good. So we all have our natural distortions going on, okay? We've got our own stuff going on, but then in our minds, there's all these programs bouncing around, and we're expressing ourselves through these narratives, through these ideological frameworks in the mind space, and their construct, the energy they use is consciousness. And they are the narratives that are programmed into our minds by the priestly caste, by the theocratic model, which is behind every geopolitical model. You have a theocratic model. And then you have these systems of narrative that get pumped into our psyche. And then every time we start to experience this world, we start to experience it through the lens of the narrative, rather than being in a process of alchemy, working on our own natural organic distortions. So differentiating between the synthetic dark, the synthetic light, to the natural dark and the natural light orders is very, very important. And again, these are the kinds of things we go deep into, is because getting clear about this stuff is what's going to help everybody navigate through this whole mess that is just being thrown left, right, and center at us at the moment.
Yes. Let's see, where do I want to go next? That's Sasha. What would you like to say?
I'm struck by your using light as masculine, which implies that there's a balance in the kinesthetic realm, and so it's interesting to think there's a little you in the consciousness of your eyes that sees things, and then to imagine there's another little you in your heart that feels things from the perspective of empathy and oneness. And so that you can to balance out the masculine, close your eyes and feel your heart and feel and see things from the heart perspective. I think that's all implicit in your work, George. That's just what I was picking up.
Thank you. And you know, and what's the alter ego of silicon or its feminine counterpart? Well, that's carbon. And then when we look at our technologies and the computers that we're using, well, they're all carbon and silica-based technologies, you know? And so you can see how the technologies that we're using have been created to interface with us. And then you got the moon, and you got, you know, the surface of the moon that's smothered with silica. So silica is important. We can't exist without that stuff, right? Where our bodies are made up of so much of it, and all biological life is made up of carbon. So we're looking at these two base elements, and what I've also realized is there's a third component. So it's kind of like, okay, so we're being manipulated through these two elements of carbon and silica, which in their own right, they are a natural expression, but this is how these entities are actually manipulating us through these elements, and we're creating technologies in our world, especially now with this creation of graphene. Have you guys seen this graphene thing?
No, what's graphene thing?
Graphene is a sheet. It's a carbon matrix, and it's one atom thick or one atom thin. It's the strongest substance we know. It's 200 times stronger than steel. It is pretty much impermeable. You can't, you know, it is far more conductive than copper, more thermal mass. This substance is incredible. And they're creating nanotubes. And this is how the transhumanist movement is going to look to upgrade, you know, the human organism with their augmented intelligence. So they're going to use graphene-based nanotube technologies, which when the graphene touches the nerve endings, that electrical energy on the end of our nerves, it just infuses beautifully, and the carbon nanotubes just grow straight in to our physiology. It is absolutely amazing how this stuff works.
Is that remember the day after Roswell, Phil Corso, he said that he had discovered something that was the basis of the transistors, which now allow us to have, things like these iPhones, and they always have the black screens, and that's part of the theory was that this was beneath graphene. Something is, Alfred called it black goo, but it's something to do with the technology that Corso found in the Roswell crash that they needed in order to get us from the, computers that were the size of a room down to these, little things we carry called cell phones. Is that something related to that?
I'll be using that technology in there for sure. Yeah, it is because, excuse me, because it interfaces with our bodies so well, because we're carbon-based, physical beings. Also, when you look at the lattice matrix network, we're looking at the hexagon. So here's a real kicker for you. When you look at the lattice network of silicon, it's a star, six-pointed star, which is the distorted, the symbol of the distorted masculine, and also is the symbol used by the New Age religion, where they symbolize the Merkaba. And for me, the Merkaba is the false light, part of the false light matrix, part of the God matrix. My natural light body.
George, we have 1 minute.
Yeah. My natural light body is not two triangles inverted. That is a synthetic construct. And the hexagon, so carbon fits inside. So the nesting of the feminine, the earth, inside the masculine, the sun, it's a perfect match. So I just wanted to finish up with that. And thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, George. Stay on afterwards. We'll have a conversation. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Much love and blessings, and aloha.
Thank you. Make it aloha.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting the danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution. Radio.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country was founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said.
Ugh, this phone drives me crazy.
Excuse me, I'm the Sprint intern from Sprint. Try my new iPhone XR with an amazing liquid retina display.
This is amazing. Mind if I snap a few photos? Look at that color. I love this display.
I'm gonna need that back.
Switch to Sprint and get iPhone XR 64 gigabytes for $0 per month with an eligible trade-in and a Sprint Flex lease. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com/iPhone, or call 1-800-SPRINT1.
Phone $0 per month for 18 months after $31.25 per month. Credit applied within 2 bills. If cancel early, remaining balance due. Excludes tax. Subject to credit. $30 activation fee. Coverage and offer not everywhere. Restrictions apply.